Joining us now on the Dan Pat Show, Andy Staples covers college football for Sports Illustrated, also knows his way around a restaurant or two. Andy, can you explain to everyone the new Redshirt Rule and how it directly affects what's going on today at Clemson? And also we'll talk about Alabama in a second.
Absolutely. So the coaches have been pushing for this rule for almost 20 years now. They wanted a way to say, hey, we can play some guys for a little bit of the season, but still redshirt them. And the reason they wanted that is, if you got some guys hurt toward the end of the year, you didn't want to have to. Let's say you had 3 defensive tackles, and your backup gets hurt, and the third guy is a guy you wanted a redshirt, and the backup's out for 1 game, and it's the 11th game of the season, and you don't want to have to play your starter for the entire game because that's not safe for him.
Right.
Well, they said, let's do this rule so that they can play 4 games, and as long as they play 4 or fewer games, they can redshirt. And so they pushed that through, and they finally got it passed this year. And so one of the kind of side effects of this rule is, especially if you're a graduated senior or a guy who's about to graduate, and Kelly Bryant graduated in May, you can kind of dip your toe in your senior season and then say, you know what, my role here is not what I want. I'm going to shut it down, and I'll go to another school next year and play immediately 1 more year, because there's also a graduate transfer rule. If you transfer as an undergraduate, you have to sit out for a year. But if you've already graduated, you can go somewhere and play immediately. So Kelly Bryant can go play at another school all season next season, and he's got that year instead of having to sit behind Trevor Lawrence for the rest of this year, and his college career is over.
But Dabo Swinney, the coach of Clemson, knows this rule. And I have a theory that, in any other year, he would have let Kelly Bryant start 1 more game so he could keep both his quarterbacks. But because they have Syracuse, who's way better than they probably were when they scheduled them 4 years ago, he has to go with this now and risk losing his guy.
I have another theory.
Go.
Maybe Dabo Swinney's a decent human being, and he wanted to give Kelly Bryant a chance to do this if he wanted to do it.
I'll go with my theory. Are you new to college football?
Yeah, I've followed college football for a little while, and followed Dabo for a little while, and I'm pretty sure if Dabo wanted to be that guy, and there's a lot of coaches out there who would be that guy, he would have started Kelly Bryant this weekend, and then said, "Oh well, Trevor's the guy" from then on. But instead, he gave him a chance to decide what he wanted to do because, like he said, he does love the kid. He spent 4 years with the kid.
Interesting.
And the guy's done everything he's asked. Somebody better just showed up. So,
similar situation, Alabama with Jalen Hurts and Tua. What's the latest with their QB situation?
Well, Nick Saban said last week that he intends to keep playing Jalen Hurts, and Jalen Hurts isn't going to redshirt. We've not heard anything definitive from Jalen Hurts yet, and we haven't heard anything definitive from Nick Saban this week. They talked Monday. I believe he talks again this afternoon. I'd be curious to see, will they come out and say something? Because body language, everything that we've seen so far suggests that Jalen Hurts is going to stay at Alabama and play the rest of the season. Now, he's in a different situation than Kelly Bryant because he's a junior. So he has 1 more year next year no matter what. It's up to him when he's deciding, this week if he wants to do anything. Does he want to play 2 years somewhere else? But he could just ride this season out and then in January say, okay, do I want to stay at Alabama for 1 more year or do I want to go play somewhere else 1 more year? Because he graduates in December.
Man, so it's a complete similar. It's very apples and oranges to what's going on at Clemson. Nick Saban's been spending his entire offseason trying to keep both guys because of how it worked out last year.
Yeah, and 2 years ago, actually, I think is probably the one Nick Saban's really worried about because in 2016, when Jalen Hurts took the starting job as a true freshman, you saw Blake Barnett transfer, I believe, after week 4. And then they had a couple other guys, Cooper Bateman and David Cornwell, that announced their transfers going into the playoffs. So really there was one scholarship quarterback who planned to be at Alabama as they went into the playoff. And that's not a situation you want to find yourself in. Now, Clemson has a guy named Chase Bryce, who was a highly recruited guy who, could be a very capable backup and could be a starting quarterback at quite a few places. So he would slip into the backup role behind Kelly Bryant. Now, the thing is, he hasn't been trained to be the backup all off season. So if they have to go to him, let's say Trevor Lawrence gets nicked up in a game or gets hurt and has to be out for a while, that's going to be a crash course for him.
We're talking at Sports Illustrated's Andy Staples. Andy, I don't know if you noticed Dan wasn't in today. This is the Danettes.
Just being quiet today.
I heard. Is this like when the substitute teacher's in?
Yeah.
I'm shocked that you guys haven't begged to have class outside.
Okay. Dan is out, so I have an opportunity here. A caller called in the show and bet any of us, will Dwayne Haskins, the Ohio State quarterback, win the Heisman? And I took him up on the action. I was the guy. So we're betting a shower of shame. Now, if you tell me I should weasel my way out of this bet, I will talk to Dan tomorrow and figure a way out.
You're saying Dwayne Haskins will win the Heisman?
I'm saying he won't. I have the field. The caller has Dwayne Haskins.
The field's good. There is a chance Dwayne Haskins will win the Heisman Trophy. I mean, he's really, really good, and the numbers he's putting up are video game numbers, and he's kind of opened that offense up in a way that JT Barrett couldn't. Here's where I'm with you. There's a guy named Tua Tagovailoa, and he's amazing. And there's a guy named Kyler Murray, and he's amazing. And there's a guy named Trace McSorley, and he's amazing. So I think there's a very good chance you win your bet, but your caller does have a shot.
Hey, Andy, I know you do some NFL draft. Is Dwayne Haskins an NFL guy? We're hearing a lot about Justin Herbert.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the worry at Ohio State is that he's a one and done as a starter because, I mean, physically he's what they want. And then you watch his pocket presence and his arm, and, he's a guy that the NFL teams will love. Now, the question is, will he come out this year or will he decide – because this wouldn't be one of those where you'll see some guys kind of evaluating class and evaluating who needs a quarterback and deciding, is this the year I come out or is it not? Justin Herbert at Oregon's a prime example of that. His brother's coming to play at Oregon, and so – he kind of liked to play with him at Oregon, but if he's going to be the number one pick, you kind of have to go. So, it will be interesting as we go forward to see how those guys evaluate because Dwayne Haskins is an NFL guy. It's just a matter of when does he want to do it after this season or does he want to play another year?
Andy, going to the Heismanments, West Virginia quarterback Will Grier, he's got the hair, the looks, he's got a little swagger to him. He finishes the season Texas, TCU, Oklahoma State, and then head-to-head against Kyler Murray in Oklahoma. That sets up for boom or bust for him for the Heisman.
Oh, absolutely. Their schedule's so ridiculously backloaded now. Watch this game this week, though. This is an interesting one. West Virginia is going to Lubbock to play Texas Tech. Lubbock does weird things to quarterbacks who come in, from the other team. It has strange things happen to them. But this is a game that could be like melt your face, like the Baker Mayfield Patrick Mahomes game a couple years ago that I think the final score was 65-58 or something like that. And they combined for like 1,200 passing yards and a million touchdowns. Watch that because Texas Tech has a true freshman quarterback named Alan Bowman. He did not win the starting job out of camp, but their starter got hurt and he came in. He's thrown for over 1,000 yards in the past 2 weeks, and I believe 9 or 10 touchdown passes. So this is going to be a big test for Will Grier because they're going to have to keep pace with Texas Tech's offense.
Andy Staples, Sports Illustrated. Also, Andy, we've had you on many times talking about college sports and food at SI Eats if you want to follow Andy's tours around the country. Now, real quick question on not the best tailgate, but the best college football town for eating. So not the actual tailgate, but the town itself.
Well, here's the thing. We got to disqualify places like Austin and Madison because they're not traditional college. They're great towns, and they're fantastic, two of the best eating towns in America, but they're also the capitals of their states. So, there's more going on there. There's a reason there's more going on
Then
there.
do you have to cancel Baton Rouge, big, good-sized town, and maybe
I know. I'm canceling Baton Rouge because it is also the capital, and I'm canceling Lincoln and Tallahassee. And sorry, guys. But if we're talking pure college towns, I think Athens, Georgia is probably the way to go, just for sheer number of great places because you got the pulled pork hash at Mama's Boy and the cinnamon rolls that are the size of a football. You want to go fancy, you can go to 5 and 10. You can get the chicken and waffle sandwich at the world famous. You go to Cali and Tito's where you buy your beer at the convenience store next door and bring an ice chest.
Right.
You go get some barbecue at Pulaski Heights. I think Athens, Georgia is probably the one.
Would you put Oxford, Mississippi as a top 5 seed?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Oxford's fantastic. John Currents is the chef who's pretty much taken over Oxford. His places are City Grocery, Big Bad Breakfast, Ray, I think, is one of his spots. And then, of course, you got Ajax Diner, which is, maybe the best meat and three in America.
Wow. Strong statement by you. Way to break it down, Staples.
I don't have many gifts, but my ability to eat stuff is pretty much the only one.
Dan would have never let you go on for this long about food, Andy. So enjoy it.
That's a substitute teacher effect.
He'd cut me off. This would have been a tight 8 minutes. And I've got a daily show now on Sirius XM, so I do understand when a guest starts rambling, sometimes you got to cut him off. So I appreciate Dan for keeping me tight.
You redeem yourself with the food recos. Andy Staples at SI, thanks for joining us on the Dan Patrick Show.
For more Dan Patrick Show, tune to Audience Channel 239 on DirecTV or download the Dan Patrick Show app.